CNN.
From Washington, Crossfire. On the left, Mike Kinsley. On the right, Robert Novak. Tonight, worth the wait? In the Crossfire, Daniel Stein, Executive Director of the Federation for American Immigration Reform. And in New York, Democratic Representative Charles Rangel of New York.
Good evening. Welcome to Crossfire. Haitians in Miami yesterday celebrated the 188th anniversary of the slave revolt that made Haiti the world's first black republic. But there wasn't much to celebrate about. For the past 2 months, Haitians have been fleeing their country's military dictatorship by the thousands in overcrowded, unseaworthy sailboats, braving 900 miles of open ocean to reach Florida. They are routinely intercepted by the U.S. Navy, which so far has picked up 8,200 Haitians. But a federal judge's order keeps them from being sent back to Haiti. So they live in tent cities on the U.S. naval base at Guantanamo, Cuba, awaiting an appeals court decision later this month that will determine their fate. Are the Haitians political refugees fleeing persecution and seeking haven in the land of the free, or are they just illegal immigrants attracted by the warm embrace of the American welfare system? Mike?
Dan Stein, do you seriously believe if these were white people fleeing some chaotic situation in a European country, risking their lives at sea to come to the United States, we would so casually say, no, sorry, you got to go back where you came from no matter what the situation's like back there?
Well, look, you know, you can hide behind the race issue, but the fact of the matter is we've taken in almost 150,000 Haitians in the last 10 years. Nobody can say that our policy with respect to Haiti is at all racist. The fact of the matter is...
Would it be different? The question is, would it be different if these were white people?
Well, we're not faced with that paradigm right now. We're faced with an uncontrolled... I think this country's policy ought to be even-handed and neutral and fair with regard to everybody. The problem is our immigration policy is out of control. Our borders are out of control. People are pouring out of countries like Haiti in record numbers now. We've got major problems at our southern border. We cannot sustain massive, uncontrolled immigration any longer. That's the bottom line.
Congressman Rangel, I just want to get what your policy is. Is it let everybody in as long as they're black?
You must be out of your mind. This is a country that's made up of all different people, all different religions, all different colors. This is what makes America, America. And I'm saying it's a flawed political racist policy to find 6,000 or 7,000 people who are fleeing a dictatorship that we've supported over the years, that we've trained their army, and to find these people in shark-infested waters and to be hypocritical enough to say that we're going to return them to this chaotic condition where thousands of people have been killed by this ruthless, out-of-control army, and say we're doing it for
how many people have been killed since their president was overthrown by
the State Department has said well over 1,000 that they know about. And I'm talking about Assistant Secretary Gilbar. They know this.
But the same State Department, sir, has interviewed these refugees, the so-called refugees, and they found that only 20% of them have any political motivation. They're coming to the U.S. for better times. They're trying to get in on the Big Rock Candy Mountain. Isn't that what they're trying to do?
Bob, someone's got to think that I'm feeding these dumb questions to you to ask me. The truth of the matter is that these people are being interviewed on Coast Guard cutters that speak Creole by white immigration officers, asking poor black folks who are hungry, who some are pregnant, others are sick, who've been battered around in shark-infested waters, are you fleeing political bullets or are you fleeing economic bullets?
Charlie,
the problem that we have is it's difficult for people to believe that you can be poor and still be scared to death for your life because of the political support of President Aristide.
Look, Charlie, everybody's heart goes out to the people of Haiti, and I think we all would like to see the democratically restored elected government put in place. But the fact is, people have been trying to get out of Haiti for at least 10 years. 23,000 Haitians were interdicted in the 1980s. They continued to come out while the Aristide administration was in power, and they started coming out again after the economic embargo.
Dan, they're clearly the current problem is that they're coming out in vastly increased numbers since Aristide was overthrown. And one reason for it, let's say they're economic refugees. They're fleeing because the economic situation is getting worse.
Look,
the reason it's getting worse is because the United States has an economic embargo against this country. Isn't it a little tough to say, we're going to make your situation worse economically until it's so desperate that you're willing to risk your life at sea? You risk your life at sea, we take you in, and we say, sorry, you're only an economic refugee, you've got to go back.
We're participating in a multilateral embargo. The OAS is involved in this. The fact of the matter is we need to segregate out the people who are bona fide political refugees, the handful who can show a legitimate fear of persecution. But we can return the rest safely, as we have done now for many, many years, if this federal judge would stop making foreign policy and get his nose out of international affairs.
Did I miss the answer, Dan, that you gave as to whether or not, whether you call them political refugees or whether you call them economic refugees, what was your answer as to how we would treat these people if they were white refugees?
My answer is that this government, the only way the United States can maintain an open-door policy to legitimate and bona fide political refugees, of which there are tens of millions around the world, is if we keep these careful distinctions in law.
I don't know what your answer
is, but we must preserve the rule of law, Mr. Rangel, and I think you know that.
Clearly, I don't really think at this point we should be talking about anything except whether or not, for humanitarian reasons, that we should at least give safe haven to these people and at such time as some degree of tranquility is restored to Haiti. You know, we are supposed to be the leaders of the New World Order. If we can't take care of these minor problems in our own hemisphere, God knows what America's going to stand for.
Congressman Rangel, I just want to know if you will stipulate, as my colleague Mike Kinsley did, that probably most of these people are coming for economic reasons. That is a fact, isn't it?
I am saying that there is an army that has sought out and killed supporters of Aristide since the coup. And I'm saying that the immigration people know it. A member of Congress has been shot dead by this reckless, out-of-control military.
How can you be so confident that all 8,000 or 6,000, however many there are in this camp, who they want to send back, have actually had a chance to prove that they're not fleeing political, that they're not merely looking for opportunity?
I am satisfied that the administration's program of interviewing them on Guantanamo Bay makes good sense, or on the Coast Guard gutters. There are some of them who are bona fide political refugees. They've been brought to South Florida. But see, the problem for the American people is it's never temporary. If you bring them to the U.S., we're still waiting for the Salvadorans to go home. There's 100,000 of them who came in temporarily. When are they going to go home?
I want to ask Congressman, just a minute, Mike. I want to ask Congressman Rangel what we do with these people. So let's say we let them all in, we take them off of Guantanamo and let them into Florida. What happens to them? Can you tell me?
First of all, they shouldn't all be let into Florida. There are enough churches that are willing to accept these people. These are Catholics. Cardinal O'Connor made it abundantly clear that this is a country and a church that has enough heart to open the doors and to give opportunities to these hard-working people. How many of them are going to be on? We're talking about a temporary protective status.
Are you going to stipulate, Charlie, when they're supposed to go home? Are you going to stipulate the conditions in your legislation when the Haitians will be asked to go home? Because none of them have gone home in the last 20 years.
You know, let me explain one thing. We're talking about two different things, Dan. I know you're concerned because so many people of color is now coming to
I resent that, Mr. I resent that, Charlie. You know you can stick where you can put the race wrap, because our immigration policies have been enormously generous to people of color from all over the world. Don't hide behind.
Let me make it clear that
let him make his point, then you can reply.
Let me make it clear that Pat Buchanan has made it abundantly clear that this is a European country. A lot of people think this way. These Haitians are not only black, but they're poor. They don't have a strong constituency. And I'm saying it was a dumb policy in the past, and I know you would agree, that just to embarrass communist countries, we just opened up our doors and just said, you all come in. And so we've had the Cubans, we've had those coming from the Soviet Union. What we are is a compassionate, humanitarian country. We can take 7,000 people here, give them temporary asylum until there's some peace and tranquility in Haiti.
Charlie, take a break. Well, we'll all take a break, and Dan will get a chance to reply when we come back.
Crossfire is brought to you by GE. From plastics to financial services, we bring good things to life.
We are the spark in the engine, the switch in the night, a voice in the dark from a million miles away. We are the beats and the slash, the flicks and the flash. We are TV, we are the good things you hear and see. We bring good things to life.
I was afraid to go to the doctor. I didn't want to hear that I might have an ulcer, but I just couldn't ignore my stomach. You can imagine how relieved I was when my doctor said Mylanta. He told me it wasn't an ulcer. It was indigestion. And indigestion like mine needed a strong medicine.
Mylanta is strong medicine, strongly recommended. In fact, Mylanta is the antacid doctors recommend most.
My doctor said Mylanta.
These slip down one more time. I'm fed up with glasses that don't fit.
You don't have to put up with glasses that don't fit anymore. Because at LensCrafters, we have so many new ways to make glasses more comfortable.
LensCrafters glasses fit your snug points with features like new snug fit hinges that hug your head and won't lose their gentle hold. LensCrafters, for that cushion of comfort you've always wanted.
I never knew glasses could be this comfortable.
LensCrafters, better fit for greater comfort in about an hour.
Tonight, he's Colonel Oliver North, a hero to some, a renegade to others. But with his legal battles over, this former warrior is keeping the gloves on and telling his story. Meet him tonight on Larry King Live, 9 Eastern on CNN.
Welcome back to Crossfire. Is America still a haven for the oppressed, or is that role now in the past? 6,000 refugees from Haiti await the answer to that question at the U.S. naval base in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. President Bush wants to send them back to Haiti. Endorsing that position here on Crossfire is Daniel Stein, Executive Director of FAIR, the Federation for American Immigration Reform. Leading the congressional charge against forced repatriation is our old Crossfire friend, Representative Charles Rangel, Democrat of New York. Let's go back to you, Mr. Stein. This distinction between an economic immigrant who can't come in and a political refugee who gets right in is written into law, but how much sense does it make? Don't most people want to come to America for a combination of those reasons? They want freedom, they want a better life. That's why our ancestors came. That's why these Haitians want to come today. Isn't that true?
Sure they do, but if you apply the definition of economic migrant, perhaps 3 billion people today live under conditions we would consider oppressive or not free. Most of them would really like many of them would like an opportunity to come here. If you don't uphold the distinction in law between legitimate political persecution and economic refugee, we'd be overwhelmed.
Look, maybe there are people who say, open the floodgates. Let's not get into that. Maybe you need some limits. But I'm asking you, is this a sensible limit? Which would you rather be? Who has it worse?
Look,
let me ask the question, then you can answer it. Who has it worse? A Haitian peasant or a middle-class intellectual in the former Soviet Union? Yet that middle-class intellectual, if he can get out of the Soviet Union or if he can get out of Cuba today, gets right in. Whereas the Haitian peasant, who seems to me objectively has it worse, can't get in because that's supposedly economic.
But see, you're suffering under a misconception. We have had an enormous amount of immigration from Haiti. 2% of that country's population has come to the U.S. in the last 10 years.
But
it is not even immigration. It is a massive population shift. We have been very generous with Haiti.
Say the law.
We could possibly provide protection if it were temporary. The problem is for the American people, it's never temporary.
Did I detect an answer to my question there? I don't think I did. I don't think I'm going to get it.
I'm going to ask you a question. I want to ask you a favor, not to bring in race in your answer, because it's just it's a non-racial question. I think it deserves a non-racial answer. Isn't it likely that most of these a great percentage, not most, a great percentage of these 8,000 Haitians, if they are permitted to come to the United States, are going to end up on the welfare rolls?
That is absolutely ridiculous. The Haitian people have a history of being some of the most hard-working immigrants we've ever had in the United States of America. And I bet you one thing, you wouldn't ask that same question if the people were coming from Ireland.
Now, isn't it also true, Representative Rangel, that the Haitian people are 10% HIV positive? You're adding to the AIDS epidemic by letting them in?
Well, don't you really think that should be a question that the attorney, the Surgeon General should be responding to? If the president was going to say that these were a health hazard, let's talk about it. But the truth of the matter is that, Bob, you know, we're not talking race, but what makes you think that this particular group of people would end up on the welfare rolls? Suppose they did come from Europe. Would you even ask that question?
Would
you ask that question?
What if they came from Japan? What if we had 8,000 Japanese?
Would you ask that question?
Well, it isn't a matter of race.
Wasn't your question guided by the color of their skin more than anything else?
Let me ask Dan Stein. You know, you said the Salvadorans came supposedly as temporary. They're still here.
Right.
What harm has it done to America that the Salvadorans are still here? They're hardworking. They run restaurants. They do dirty jobs no American would wish to do. Seems to me most of them have done great things for this country and have done this country no harm whatsoever.
Well, look, you're perpetuating a stereotype. The fact is, first of all, the American people were told it was temporary. The Poles came here in 1981, and they're not going home. The second thing is, if you haven't checked the fiscal state of California lately, where Governor Wilson is trying to run a state, you'll notice that immigration has been overwhelming the infrastructure of the state, the schools, the hospitals, healthcare system. You cannot provide unlimited hospitals and schooling for people coming in who need enormous remedial care, and driving out your tax base, by the way, and still provide a first-class quality of life for Americans.
They're supplying cheap labor that
you might also notice that polls show overwhelmingly that the American people want to see immigration brought under control.
All right, let me ask Congressman Rangel on that. If the people in your district, which I believe includes Harlem, in New York City, were given a poll, would you want to see more immigrants come in? What do you think they'd say?
I would think that during hard times, there are people that just would believe that we ought to take care of our own and let those other people that are out there that are doing worse find some other place in order to enjoy a better quality of life. This was true when the Jews were seeking some type of asylum out of Germany, where America closed their doors to them. This has been true when other groups have had persecution. Now, countries can be as racist as they want to be, but the United States of America has a responsibility to the world, but more importantly, to herself. And I'm just saying that when it comes to these darn Haitians, it doesn't make any difference how poor we are. There's room enough for the in. And in my district, one of the poorest that we have in the country, the overwhelming majority of the people would say we don't have much, but we certainly are willing to share it with these people.
You know, Congressman, the one thing you said that I'm just startled by is you're taking all these positions, which I think are principled positions on your part, and I even agree with you on some of them, but I asked you about HIV positive. You said, oh, that's for the Surgeon General. We can't worry about that.
Now listen, let me tell you something. If you're afraid of HIV positive, why don't you join with me and we will go to the president and we would say that you have to be tested in order to get into the United States. They just looked at these people in the shark-infested water, looked at the color of their skin, found out they were poor, and said, we're going to pick you up and we're taking you back to Haiti.
Well, that's not fair.
Now, if you have any concern about health, then why don't you say that I'm willing to accept these people here, but I just don't believe it's a healthy
Let Dan Stein
thing to
in,
do.
Congressman.
What Charlie's talking about is that he wants a virtual open border between the United States and Haiti. This is effectively what he's arguing.
That's just
at a time when immigration is completely at an unprecedentedly high levels. We're talking over 1 million a year. We're talking 15 million immigrants in the 1990s, major recession, major unemployment. He wants to open the doors between the U.S. and Haiti.
How much harm
yes, we
is that?
can continue to take some immigrants, but we cannot continue to take the immigrants at the volume and velocity that we are taking today.
How many should we take?
It's 300,000 a year. That's historically our national average, very generous, and that's the point at which we would not be fueling population growth.
We only
There's
got
nothing wrong with that.
Population growth.
What do you want, 50 million Californians? We're going to get that in 1
million is not an excess.
All right, folks, we're going to have to take a break. And when we return, we're going to take a look at the bigger problem. Are immigrants good for America or bad for America?
Hello, I'm Susan Rook. At the top of the hour, we will take a look at the first day of a market economy in Russia. New information from a surprising source about American POWs in Vietnam. And fear in Los Angeles holds the innocent behind bars. Prime News is right after Crossfire.
It's Grand Central Station. It's Carnegie Hall. It's a late-night bistro and a banquet hall for 50. It's a GE Monogram kitchen. With GE Monogram appliances of such dramatic beauty and original style, they have no equal. So with Monogram appliances, your kitchen can be everything you ever dreamed it could be. Because you may call it a kitchen, but at GE, we know it's really your living room.
Along with the glaciers, a string quartet. There are eagles and old world antiques. Midnight Sun, Rosenthal china, the finest service, and the spouting of whales. Surely there is no land on earth more magnificent and wild than Alaska, and no way more civilized to see it than aboard the ships of Holland America, the world's best cruise line.
Railroad officers, stay where you are.
Now, for the first time on video, The Untouchables. Unstoppable, uncorruptible, and unavailable in any video store. Call now and the best episodes of this TV classic can be yours with The Untouchables, the collector's edition, exclusively from Columbia House Video. Take your first volume for only $4.95 and meet the men who took on the mob, led by Elliot Ness, dedicated to bringing down the syndicate.
Now we're gonna tie a tin can to Nitty's tail and chase him from one end of Chicago to the other.
Catch them in action against the nation's most ruthless criminals. Frank Nitti, Dutch Schultz, Ma Barker, history's most notorious gangsters, all brought down by The Untouchables. To order, call this toll-free number and enjoy complete, uncut action, adventure, excitement, suspense with The Untouchables. To get your first 2-hour, 2-episode video, call this toll-free number. Credit card orders only, please.
It's a deal.
Congressman Charles Rangel, Democrat of New York. What has caused all this sudden propulsion in the immigration of Haitians to the United States is the overthrow of the president, democratically elected President Aristide. But isn't it true, sir, he is no saint, that his supporters have been accused of tire burning of their victims, and that he had said some favorable things about it? Is this something that we should really be taking sides on from the United States?
It just seems that we have no choice. This has been the first duly democratic elected leader in Haiti since the de Villiers government, which was a dictatorship. Whether or not receiving 80% of the popular vote is wrong or right certainly isn't a question for the United States of America. If they made a mistake in who they selected, then obviously there should be another election. But that's a Haitian problem.
Well, the government has scheduled another election for, I believe, next week, isn't it?
I don't see how they can do that. You know, you can't just pick Haiti and set a different set of rules for them. Anytime a country has a coup, and especially in our hemisphere, we are there, and the president courageously provided the leadership in saying, one, we support Aristide, the restoration of Aristide, and we condemn the coup.
Why don't we
now, you can't have a coup and just call for a new election.
Why don't we crack down on Burma? Why don't we crack down on Ethiopia? Why don't we do this all over the world if we're going to be Uncle Sam was going to be everybody's Aunt Sam?
One thing, Bob, if we're going to really be a leader in the New World Order, I think we have some responsibility in our hemisphere. Okay. This is a country that we have special obligations to. They even sent troops here to fight in our American Revolution.
Okay,
but
Charlie,
I want you to know that...
You got to let me and Dan in because the time is running out.
That's right.
Dan, you say this is going to be a political issue. There's one candidate for president making a political issue. That's Pat Buchanan. He says there's a difference.
Have you heard of Eugene McCarthy?
All right, fine.
How about David Duke?
What about Paul Tsongas?
Pat Buchanan says there's a difference between letting in a lot of Englishmen and letting in a lot of Zulus, as he calls it. Is that fair's position?
No, we want 300,000 overall national limit. There's a perception in America today that our immigration policy is unmanaged and out of control.
There's a perception.
There's a perception that immigration is injuring states like California, Florida, and New York. We need to get our borders under control, restore the democratic process.
We've had your soundbite. Thanks a lot, Dan Stein. Thank you, Congressman Rangel. Novak and I will have a soundbite or two in just a moment.